On her 25th birthday, Brooke sat at a family dinner that felt more like a courtroom. Then her sister spoke 4 words that shattered the silence and changed everything. For my birthday, my sister said, "Our family is ashamed that you use our last name." My name is Brooke, and I just turned 25 years old. It was supposed to be my birthday, the kind of evening that looks perfect from the outside, but turns rotten once you step inside it. A small family gathering in my parents' dining room, with warm lights overhead, polished glasses on the table, and smiles that never quite reached anyone's eyes. I remember thinking, as I adjusted my dress and accepted the first stiff hug of the night, that I should have trusted the tight feeling in my chest. That feeling warned me this night wasn't really about celebrating me at all. My sister arrived late. She always does. Confident and loud, carrying herself like the room already belonged to her. When she hugged me, it was brief, almost formal. Her perfume hung sharp and familiar in the air, and her smile was thin, almost invisible. Dinner started politely. Plates clinking, forced laughter bouncing off the walls. I tried to stay grateful. Told myself this was still family. That birthdays are complicated. That I was probably just being too sensitive. I poured myself a glass of wine and listened as my parents talked about work, about neighbors, about anything except me. And then my sister cleared her throat. The table went quiet in that heavy way that means something sharp is about to be thrown. She looked straight at me, not with anger, but with something colder. Something rehearsed. And on my birthday, my sister said, "We're ashamed that you use our last name." The words landed like a slap. Sudden. Public. For a second, I thought I had misheard her, that my brain was protecting me by twisting the sounds. But then I saw my mother nod slowly, lips pressed together, as if this was a completely reasonable thing to say. As if shame was a family value we were all meant to share. My dad didn't speak. But he looked at my sister with pride. The same proud look he used to give her when she won awards or spoke up in meetings. And that hurt more than anything she could have said. Because it told me this wasn't a mistake. It was a verdict they had already agreed on. I just sat there quietly, holding my wine, feeling the stem slick between my fingers. My heart was beating so loud I was sure everyone could hear it. I stared at the tablecloth because if I looked up, I might cry. And I refused to give them that. I thought about all the years I had carried that last name. All the times I had defended it, worked for it, tried to make it mean something good. And suddenly it felt like a costume they were ripping off me in front of everyone. My sister kept going, explaining in that calm, superior tone how my choices reflected badly on the family. How people talked. How appearances mattered. Each word felt like another small cut, precise and intentional. I wanted to argue. To ask since when love came with conditions. Since when a name was something you earned by obedience. But my throat closed up and all that came out was silence. Around us, the room felt smaller. The walls listening. The candles flickering like they were nervous too. And I became acutely aware of how alone I was at my own birthday table. Then I noticed my grandmother sitting at the far end. Quiet until now. Her hands folded. Her eyes fixed on my sister in a way that made me pause, because there was something there I hadn't seen before. A stillness that wasn't weakness. A patience that felt earned. She pushed her chair back slowly, the legs scraping softly against the floor, the sound cutting through the tension like a blade. No one told her to sit down. No one dared interrupt. And as she stood, the room seemed to hold its breath. I could feel my sister stiffen. Could see my mother glance nervously between them. My father's proud expression wavered just a little. Grandma straightened, steady despite her age. And I realized that whatever she was about to say mattered. That it carried weight the rest of US couldn't fake. She looked at me first. Really looked at me. And in her eyes, I saw something I hadn't felt all evening. Recognition. Then she turned back to my sister. Her voice calm but unmistakably firm. And though she said only 2 words, the effect was immediate, like a switch flipping in the room. My sister's face went pale. I didn't yet understand what those words would mean for me, for us, or for the family story we had been telling ourselves for years. But in that moment, as my wine glass trembled slightly in my hand and my birthday candles burned low, I knew this night wasn't over. and that the shame they tried to place on me was about to be exposed for what it really was. Grandma's 2 words were, "Sit down." They weren't loud, but they didn't need to be, because authority doesn't shout when it knows it will be obeyed. My sister froze, like she'd been caught doing something she thought no one would challenge. Her confident posture collapsed as she slowly lowered herself back into her chair. Her face drained of color exactly like the moment promised. The silence afterward was so thick it felt like it pressed against my ears. Grandma didn't sit back down herself. She stayed standing, hands resting on the table, eyes sharp and clear. And then she spoke again, this time more than 2 words, and every sentence landed exactly where it needed to. She said she had watched this family for decades. Watched pride turn into cruelty and standards turn into weapons. And she said she was tired of seeing love handed out like a reward instead of given freely. She looked at my parents and asked them when they had decided that image mattered more than their own child. My mom opened her mouth to respond, but no sound came out. Her nod from earlier now looked small and ashamed instead of righteous. My dad tried to defend himself, saying he only wanted what was best for the family name. And that was when Grandma smiled sadly and said, "The family name means nothing if it's used to crush the people who carry it." I felt something shift inside me, like a knot loosening. Because for the first time that night, someone was saying out loud what I had felt for years, but never dared to voice. Grandma turned to me again and told everyone how I had helped her after my grandfather died. How I had shown up when no one else had time. How I had carried groceries, listened to stories, fixed small things without ever asking for praise. Each example made my sister sink lower in her chair because it painted a picture that didn't match the story she had just tried to sell. My parents looked stunned, like they were seeing me for the first time. And I wondered how invisible I must have been for so long if it took this moment to notice. Grandma finished by saying that if anyone at this table should be ashamed, it wasn't the daughter who lived honestly, but the people who tried to rewrite her worth to protect their own egos. And with that, she finally sat down. The room exhaled all at once, like it had been holding its breath the entire night. No one spoke for a few seconds. Then my sister laughed nervously, trying to brush it off as an overreaction. But the laugh died quickly because no one joined her, not even my parents. I took a sip of my wine, my hands steadier now. And I realized I wasn't shaking anymore. Because something important had happened. The power had shifted. My mom finally apologized quietly, without excuses. My dad stared at his plate, his pride wounded in a way that couldn't be easily patched over. And for the first time, I didn't rush to make them feel better. I let the discomfort sit because it wasn't mine to fix. The rest of the evening unfolded awkwardly. Conversations forced. Cake eaten without enthusiasm. And when it was time to leave, my sister avoided my eyes entirely, her earlier confidence nowhere to be found. Grandma hugged me last, longer than anyone else, and whispered, "A name doesn't make a person, but a person can redefine a name." I carried those words with me as I stepped out into the cool night air, feeling lighter than I had in years. That birthday didn't magically fix my family. It didn't turn my sister into someone else overnight. But it did something more important. It reminded me that I didn't need their permission to belong to myself or to my own story. I went home knowing that whatever shame they tried to hand me was never really mine to carry. And that sometimes the quiet ones at the table are the strongest, waiting for the right moment to speak. Sometimes the quietest voices at the table carry the most truth. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more powerful real-life stories.